Hello, so time for a live stream. It's going to be obviously the Sunday one. I've got it public for everybody, so everybody should be able to join, but I've got slow mode on, so obviously if you're coming on and you're not a moderator, it means that you have to wait. I think it's like either 30 or 60 seconds. I'm yawning as soon as I start talking, but yeah, you have to wait 1 minute between everything. All right, Brighto. At least now that you're a mod, Brighto, you can talk normally on these streams, so that's good. Same with the members ones, but obviously it affects these ones as well. So I filmed 3 videos today. I've edited one together that's going on Wednesday. Another one, the videos, is going on Friday. Another one's going to be going on Sunday. But I've only edited the Wednesday one now. I'll get the Friday and Sunday one probably edited tomorrow or Tuesday. But hello to everybody that's joining. Hope you're all right. The good thing is, since I've started taking more iron in my diet and eating more healthily, I've definitely had a bit more energy. I'm still quite tired today because the clock's changed today and I didn't sleep very well last night, but that's because my stomach was playing up. So it was kind of the thing of, waking up every couple of hours to go to the toilet. So I hope everybody is right. All right, Henry. Like I said to you, Henry, I'll give you your mod back on here anyway. There you go. Is that all right? Assassin's Creed Valhalla? No, Central. I've not played any of the Assassin's Creeds after... I think Assassin's Creed 4 was the last one I played. When you say the signal, Joshua, what do you mean your internet? Let me just check. I've got nothing downloading in the background on mine because I know sometimes that will slow my end down. I don't know if you mean just you're using a phone signal. There's also a film called The Signal. And that's an alright film. It's a bit weird. It's a bit like the 5G conspiracy film. It's about people who get controlled by mobile phones and turn into zombies. They're very expensive, Connor. That's the problem. I mean, I can legally get them. The problem is they're very expensive. I don't know if I really want to be paying like a couple of grand for, a flintlock type thing. Because the problem is in the UK, you can't as easily get the replica, like the firing replicas, like you can in the US. Because I think then they put them under a different law than they do if you're, buying an actual antique one. But hello to everybody. So I hope you're all right. Like I said, there isn't loads for me to talk about. I said I filmed 3 videos earlier. Yeah, I'm hoping it worked for me like that, Lakiza. It's obviously, like I said, I've only been doing it now for about maybe a week or whatever it is. And it's definitely helping on some days. But yeah, there are other days where I will feel tired, quite early in the day. But then I think it's not always, is it, down to iron? You can obviously have other reasons you'd feel tired. Yeah, but if it's a replica like that, it's a non-firing replica, there's a difference. So anyway, I'll see if there's anything interesting on the news. I haven't heard about much today other than that ship still stuck in the Suez Canal. I suppose if you want some good news, more than 30 million people in UK received the first COVID jab. So I had mine a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that's good that, nearly half the UK's population has been vaccinated now, at least for the first dose. I am still drinking Guinness. I don't have one tonight. I've just got a bit of wine tonight. But yeah, I'm still drinking Guinness. Yeah, I don't generally go too much into politics, radioactive cow, but obviously, yeah, if civilians are getting shot in the streets, that's an awful situation. Yeah, the S10's a good mask. It's not my gas mask, though. It's made by Avon Rubber, not by me. Yeah, I think it's mostly, Henry, isn't it? Israel, the UK, and some of the Arab sort of Gulf states that have done quite well with vaccination. I know that America's sort of getting their act together with vaccinations now. Some stuff opens in April, Josh. Some stuff opens up in May. But yeah, it's not until May that stuff opens up properly. Dan literally just answered your question just there when I was reading some of the other things. In theory, Ethan, I think it does mean that, but obviously I'm not the person to ask because I don't make legislation like that. I just follow it. As in, it's complicated enough as it is. I know if you go on sites where you can buy deactivated guns, you can buy the EU spec ones, and you can buy like the old spec UK ones and everything else. And I know they're deactivated in different ways, but whether or not they'll roll stuff back because of Brexit, I don't know. Yeah, Bright, a lot of people try and make too much money from shipping, don't they? I mean, sometimes it can be a legit thing depending on where somebody is based and what the actual postage cost is, but sadly a lot of time people do the postage thing of like, oh, I'm just going to make loads of money through postage. Well, yeah, I'm suspect at Nerd Central, especially because they keep saying, oh, even though we're expecting to have all the vaccines done by this date, we need the emergency powers for a far longer period than that. Oh, that's good, Sam. So you can obviously pick up alpha sources, I assume, with that if you've got a microprobe. I assume you mean Pfizer, Henry. Yeah, I mean, everybody can have side effects of vaccines because there's some sort of there are some sort of conditions, aren't there, where you're not meant to have certain vaccines, and then they suggest you have a different vaccine. Like that's something your doctor would have to discuss for you. Yes, an S10 is obviously good for £25. Ah, cool. Where did you find those, Stug, for that sort of price? Because that. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. I thought when you said about the Mills grenade, I was reading a person saying £25 for an S10. I thought that's good for a deactivated Mills grenade. Still said it wrong. It's Pfizer, not Fraser. That sounds good, Rich. I mean, I've got enough weights, really. Part of my problem is having the space to store the weights, because what ends up happening is when they're not used for a while, they'll get put away somewhere, and then it's too much of a pain in the ass to get them out to exercise and then put them back. Yeah, that's the thing is, due to Corona, lots of masks have just sold out, haven't they? I'm glad you recovered, Snoz, but yeah. There's all the different categories, aren't there? Because that's where it gets a bit confusing, because there's where you sometimes think you'll be in one category and then you're in another because of some silly reason. I've not really got any interest in Call of Duty Cold War, but I'm glad you're enjoying it, Braden. But yeah, as said, I've not really done loads today. I got 3 videos filmed, so I suppose that was quite a bit. But it's basically one of those things where I set up to film one video, and I thought, well, I've got the camera and everything else, so I'll just get some more videos filmed. I didn't know you were taking apart a microwave, Peach. Have you taken the big 2 kilovolt transformer out? Because microwave transformers are quite fun, but be careful playing with it because they're high amps. They're not like high voltage, low amp circuits, where you get a shock, but it's not that dangerous. A microwave transformer will probably actually fry you if you get electric shock from it. Other than like radiation type stuff, Henry, no. I should have a couple of new gas masks coming soon to do videos on, but like I've said, I'm mostly trying to sell stuff at the moment to just clear up space. It won't be a real flintlock pistol if you can get one up for £20 on eBay. Yeah, and as Lakiza says, be careful the big capacitor, because yeah, the capacitor can hold a charge for quite a long time after it's been even after it's been unplugged, and then a capacitor can still hold a charge and fry you if it discharges into you. Because a capacitor is a bit like a battery, just rather than it being like a chemical conversion, it's just stores an electric charge. Yeah, capacitors are kind of the scary things, because again, that's when you can have circuits that have been turned off for a while but can still hold a charge. Yeah, it's lucky you didn't, Braden. Yeah, exactly. And that's also why it's a good idea to get the well-insulated screwdriver, so in theory the shock shouldn't go through it. I ought to set one up now, Brightor, because I've got a really good bag for setting it up. I'll do a review of it at some point, but I bought one of the really big British Army Bergen rucksacks. Because basically that's when like the 120-litre capacity sort of rucksacks, and I bought one for when I want to transport stuff, in a big rucksack. Yeah, I've touched electric fences. I mean, electric fences aren't very, well, the ones that you get for keeping farm animals in aren't very scary electric fences, are they? They're the ones that kind of have a pulse go through them like every 10 to 20 seconds or whatever. Yeah, I get you there, Rich, where you're saying, like, yeah, you wouldn't want to put too much weight, would you, on a cheap bar? I've definitely had some bars where I don't know how much, like, the plates, or whatever you want to call them, swivel on them. They're not that bad, Sam. High voltage, low milliamp shocks aren't bad at all. They make you jump, that's it. I had a 60 kilovolt shock the other day, 10 milliamp 60 kV shock, which was made me jump a bit, but stop spamming. Can you see my favorite gas mask? That's a good way to get blocked. Because yeah, that's the problem. These public streams, it always turns into people spamming something that I've shown over and over and over again, rather than actually joining in the conversation. That's cool. I'm assuming that's quite a small caliber, is it? 32. I know 38's a fairly small caliber, so I assume it's even smaller than that than 32. How do you mean, Mario, the purple guy? If you mean replicas, if it's a well-done replica, it's good. And as long as you know you're buying a replica and somebody's not claiming it's a real thing, it's good. Surplus, I review a lot of surplus on this channel. No, Central, because every time I've looked, they don't have my size in. Hopefully they will soon. But yeah, like another one like this, yeah. But there's a couple I like the look of, but I'm not going to buy one if it's stupidly out of my size, like extra large, because then it will be, as much as that would be good as a tent, maybe, I'm not really going to have much use for it. So yeah, I'm waiting for one of the Dickies ones or one of the other good brands ones to sort of turn up in my size, I think they're different calibers, Brighto. I think 9mm is technically 38 in terms of metric and imperial, but 9x 19mm is generally a different cartridge from like 38 special, whatever it is. Not really, and I find them interesting, sort of like watching programs like the old Top Gear and that, but they're not really in my price range, so I never really pay that much attention to them. Oh, you can see there are bows in the background, GZ2, so I don't know why you're asking that. But I don't have any long bows, no. Sadly, because there's not anywhere near me where I can shoot for more than like 10 yards with a bow. Yeah, because isn't it that you can put 38 special in a 357 Braden or something like that? Or as in doing some videos of that OK9. I will at some point. I want to do a video with the Gen Zero. The problem is you can't really film through it. I could certainly do a video where I'm wearing it and holding a camera and walking around with it. Because obviously my high nanometer infrared torch can be seen absolutely fine by that. But I haven't really been out that much of the night vision recently, just because I'm too tired by the time it gets dark, And we're going into summertime now, so it'll be even more difficult. Oh, I need to change that clock, don't I? I've just realised that's an hour slow now because of the fact that we've gone through like the daylight savings time sort of thing. So what I'll need to do is figure out where I've popped the remote for that. It's normally always somewhere around here, and then when I next spot the remote, I'll change it. Haven't really played much today at all in the Central. I bought Evil Genius 2 when that comes out, if that's any good. Hopefully it'll be good. I don't normally pre-order games in case they're crap, but I've not been playing that much recently, other than a bit of Stronghold Crusader. Just because I've been trying to sort stuff out around the house. I haven't heard about that, Snores. It sounds interesting. Is that one that's a museum, or is it one of those ones that's annoyingly like shut up, just like rotting away, and you can't visit it because you'd be trespassing? Is it that sort of one? I think, Sam, it should do that. Assuming that it responds to the right wavelength, then yes. Because if something responds to UV light, there's a good chance X-rays and gamma rays will excite it as well. I mean, that's the logic of how the old radium watches glowed, was that the radium essentially gave off energy that reacted with the phosphor. Let me look up old Macedonian camos. Are they like the old Yugoslavian ones, or are they something different? Is there a Camopedia page for Macedonia? Yes, there is. Right, let's have a look. I don't think I have any Macedonian camo. Let's have a look. So the ARM camouflage that's showing up on Camopedia looks a lot like the DPM trousers I've got on. It looks like, another DPM variant. So that's all right. But yeah, it looks like US Woodland or British DPM. Is there anything on here? Yeah, then it's just got the Yugoslav stuff. So I've got some of the Yugoslav stuff, obviously, like the M89 pattern. My favourite old Yugoslav one, but I've never seen any for sale, is like the Mountain Sniper one. That's like that really cool rock-looking camouflage. That's very interesting. I'll look that up when I remember to look it up and I'm in the mood to sort of do a bit of reading. Oh, that'd be good, Lakiza, because, yeah, M1s over here are like very easy to find and like nobody really wants them. But yeah, M2s are good, and especially some of the variants you can find on the M2s, like the voice diaphragms and that. No, GP5s are 40mm. Gosh, they're not going to fit a 60mm NATO filter. That's cool, Braden. So you just mostly collect pistols then rather than rifles, or what? Feel free, Brighto, as long as it's hosted on a site that's not dodgy. Like, as long as it's hosted on a mainstream image site, I don't mind. Yeah, that's Fiestaware. That's a radioactive thing. It's not scarily radioactive, so it doesn't bother me at all being near it, because it's basically just natural uranium in a bit of paint. It makes a Geiger counter tick, but it doesn't really give off much energy. Yeah, I like Forgotten Weapons, GZ Deuce, but again, it's one of the things where I'll watch a load of his videos, like you said, like on a binge, where I won't watch his for a while, and then I'll think, well, I've got several free hours, so let's watch loads of 20-minute videos on certain patterns of rifle. Yeah, I'm trying to think what YouTube channels I've been watching recently. What I've mostly been listening to recently is the Lotus Eaters, which is like Sargon's new podcast sort of thing. Although I think it's been around for a while, but I only just found out about it because I noticed he hadn't been uploading to his channel very much, and then I realised it's because he's actually got, like a new thing he's on, like a new platform. So that's quite good, because obviously I find his stuff's quite funny because he's not like too far right. He's more like a classic liberal, isn't he? Which means he's more interesting to listen to because it doesn't turn into commie whinging like a load of the stuff on the radio, or like, the 1488 bollocks that you also hear about people, oh, my white ethno state. It's just generally quite funny, just taking the piss out of, people who get very angry over stupid things. Did he say a particular thing you didn't like, GZ Deuce, or what? I haven't watched his stuff for ages, but I've just been enjoying watching a load of the stuff on the podcast just because it's quite funny with, like all of the stuff, they're taking the piss out of. It should be 40mm NATO, Lakiza. Same as any of the other like NATO masks, because it's 60mm NATO for the old Yugoslavian M1, and it's 40mm NATO for the M2. For some reason, Yugoslavia always used Western filters, basically, like Western threads, like M9 style stuff. Right, let me try and guess what country LatPat is. I'm assuming Pat is pattern. But right, is that Latvian? Is that like Latvian pattern? I don't know. I've seen some of his videos, Stug. I don't watch him very often. I think I'm subscribed to him, but I only really watch the ones to do with like Chernobyl type things. Yes, Braden, you can, but the problem is they fall into one of those annoying areas in the law, which means despite the fact I could legally buy one, people won't legally sell it to me. It's that kind of problem, where most of the people that deal in them want to sell them to people that have full-on gun licenses that you don't need for them to cover themselves, because they don't want to sell it to somebody who's then going to shoot somebody with it, and then they might get done for it. That's interesting, Rich. What is my most liked tank from World War II? Well, the Centurion is technically from World War II, but not really. I mean, Tiger 2 is, I think, one of the most aesthetic tanks of World War II, but it's not very good. The Sherman's probably the best tank of World War II in all round. You know, they could build a lot of Shermans, and they are actually very good tanks, despite, you know, people are like, oh no, Shermans set on fire later on to the phone. Yeah, this is the problem, Braden. It's basically because over here they fall into a weird grey area in the law where you can legally own one, but a lot of the companies that deal in them want to basically protect themselves. So it falls into that annoying thing where you have to kind of jump through too many hoops to get one. Like, you can now and again find some really nice antique black powders very easily on sites that sell obsolete guns. But in terms of, like, actually getting into the shooting of them, you almost have to just go down into, like, the actual gun licensing at that point. All right, Dominic. But yeah, so as I said, I won't be on a full hour tonight anyway, because it's been 20 minutes. And like I said, I'm already tired. When I'm doing the stream, I'm not actually as tired as when I'm sort of just looking at a monitor. But yeah, that's the thing, Luckies. I know that. What I'm saying is, for some reason, all of Yugoslavia's gas mask stuff was in NATO threads, not GOST threads. That's my point. Like, I know didn't Yugoslavia use 7.62 by 51 as well as 7.62 by 39? Because they have a weird AK-looking battle rifle that's in 7.62 NATO. That's quite interesting, because it's in one of my book on, like, you know, loads of different guns. Because I know obviously things like the M70 and M72 rifles are 7 by 7.62 by 39 millimeter. Cheeky Antics may be the DP2 control source, just because I had to buy 3 DP2s to finally get a DP2 with the control source still inside it. That's cool. Alexis, if I said your name right, or is it just like Alexi? Is that how your name's pronounced? Alexi? Is a J pronounced like an I? Because if it's Alexi, that makes sense, but otherwise I can't pronounce it. Is it an M9A1 with all the original parts? If so, £68 might be all right for it. But over here, you can get M9A1s generally quite cheap, just because they're not that useful. You know, where there's just like old military stockpiles of them where they're a bit rotten. Oh, Dominic, you obviously missed it what I was saying earlier in the stream. I filmed 3 videos today, one for Wednesday, one for Friday, one for Sunday. I've edited the Wednesday one together, and that's you know, up and ready to go on. The Friday and Sunday one I haven't got around to editing yet, but I just did the thing today when I got all the camera equipment out to film. I thought I might just do a load of videos at once. Well, I knew 2 videos I wanted to do, so I did one video and then did the other video I wanted to do, and then I actually had an idea of something I could do with, like, for a quick short little video, not like a hashtag shorts video, you know, but just one of the ones are like, well, I can do a 2-minute video on this while I've got this stuff out, so I might as well do it rather than getting it all out for a separate video. That's cool, Cheeky Antics. Yeah, I'm trying to think, do I have anything that's radium coated that's particularly interesting? Because I've got 2 back scales from DP63 Geigers, which are pretty strong radium sources. I've got loads of old, like, aircraft dials, but lots of those are just pretty generic, you know, and the dose isn't always the same across them because it depends how well they were painted. I'm trying to think if I've got anything particularly weird that's radium painted. But yeah, I know you can get some, like, old radium things that are absolutely doped in radium paint, can't you? Yeah, there's lots. That's the weird thing over here, Lakiza, is you can often buy deactivated Yugoslavian weapons that are basically the copies of the German ones, way cheaper than the German ones because they don't have the same, you know, kind of demand on them. Yeah, it's weirdly Stug. It's something to do, wasn't it, with I'm trying to think of the reason. I think it has something to do with I'll lose my point now. Sorry, it's just I had a notification saying I had a payment come through that was meant to come through several hours ago. We're good. I think it's mostly because they bought a licensed copy, but it's weird, isn't it, that they essentially bought the enemy's licensed copy. It's a shithole Reddit, isn't it, B? Isn't that what RGP5 is? A Reddit that nobody with a brain would go on, I'd assume. Like, lots of Reddits. That, you know, there are a couple of good Reddits, but most of the gas mask Reddits are just fucking shitfest, aren't they? Normally, I tend to just, Dominic, when I film a video, I tend to just do one video a day when I'm filming. But yeah, today I just did a batch because I felt like I had the energy to do it. It would, Iron Man Spartan. If you're interested in fallout protection, I would definitely recommend watching some of the old civil defense films on how to build a good fallout shelter in a basement, because some of them are actually very good at explaining nuclear, like, physics sort of science to do with, like, radiation versus square law, but in a really simple way. So they don't talk to you like you're dumb, but, you know, they explain it in a very simple way, like how you should teach kids at a school. You know, so you learn stuff, but it's not treating you like an idiot. It's quite good. But basically, the denser the material between you and the outside area, the better protected you'll be. Don't get me wrong, there are good Reddits, Brighthole. It's just, for the most part, I don't like most Reddits to do with hobbies because it always turns into elitism. Buongiorno to you, Gilia, if I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm probably pronouncing that horribly wrong. It's probably not even buongiorno for this time of day, is it? But, you know, hello. The Romanian M85 filter, at least the one that came on mine, where is it? I did have one behind me somewhere with that filter on where I put on a different mask. There it is, on this Chinese mask. This was the one I had come on mine, where it gives you all like the times for how long it protects from certain gases. Obviously, that was when it was new, not when it's an old filter. But that was the filter the M85 used, at least one of them. They probably did several filters. Shape-wise, it looks like the M65's filter, but they put the cool writing on it. For 300 quid, you are not going to get a Gen 3 night vision scope. Gen 3 stuff is generally several grand. You know, like bad condition Gen 3 stuff is normally like £2,000 plus. For £300, you might just get a Gen 2 unit that's in bad condition, or you're just very lucky. In general, 300 quid will get you a good Gen 1 plus unit. From what I understand, the prices I generally see night vision for, in the UK at least, £300-ish or less is Gen 1 to Gen 1 plus territory. Gen 2 is generally like £400 to £1,000 sort of thing. Gen 2 plus £1,000 plus. Gen 3 normally a few grand. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get Gen 3 for that money. Is what 40mm GOS? It's, if you mean Romanian filters, no, they're NATO, weirdly, not GOST. Or are they? I can't even fucking remember now. I'm trying to actually remember, because although they had licensed Western masks, I can't remember if they actually changed them to a GOST thread or not. I'm really confused now. Well, I mean, Draeger's been making masks for decades. Some of their masks are really good. Some of them are a bit crap. I suppose it depends on when they were built and what the sort of budget or use for them was, because obviously last-ditch masks made by Draeger during World War II are going to be low quality. You know, some of the very high-standard Draeger, like modern industrial ones, are going to be very good quality. It depends on the mask. Well, if you're saying, can chemical gloves protect you from nuclear, biological, chemical threats, they're definitely going to protect you from biological threats if they're biological gloves. In general, in terms of NBC, it will depend on what rubber it is, with how well it will withstand chemicals. And with the nuclear protection, it's only going to protect the stuff from like not going directly on your skin. Like ionizing radiation will penetrate gloves pretty easily. I'm getting rid of the person spamming weird stuff. The only filters I can recommend at the moment for things like a GP5 would be something like the modern Chinese filters that are built to a decent standard, because they're still GOST. Because the problem is, in a lot of Western countries, you just cannot find GOST filters on the market, or not for good prices. You know, which is the reason, like, I and a lot of other people will tell you who are into masks, don't get Soviet GOST masks in the NATO, you know, like a Western country, because you're not going to find the filters for them. Don't randomly tag me, just for the people saying that. I'll give this person a warning. But don't tag me for no reason in the comment, because it's just a waste of a comment, isn't it? I've never used the Millennium. It's basically the better version of the MCU2P, isn't it, the Millennium? It depends which one you like the look of more. I mean, the S10 is pretty old by this point, but so is the Millennium, and I know both of them sort of have problems in some regards. OM90 is like an S10, but not as good. Depends how much you're paying for it, really, doesn't it? I really don't know with 3D printing, because the problem is a lot of 3D printing stuff ends up having lots and lots of porous holes in it. So in theory, there might be something that you can like lacquer or whatever it is, lacquer, whatever the term is, on top of the 3D printed plastics once they're done to make them airtight. But I'm not the person to ask for that, because I do not really know anything about 3D printing. I just know that in general, 3D printed adapters have loads and loads of microscopic holes in them, which mean they're not suitable really for, filters. Yeah, Dominic, right. I've done a video explaining this, but basically, the Polish filter called the P5 is the one that's GOST. The FP5 is meant to be NATO, but you can get FP5 filters that are probably P5s that have been labelled FP5s. I've got an S10 M1C Austin that I think was from 2009. It's probably going to be around 2009, 2010 sort of time, because that's when Britain at least changed to the GSR, around that sort of time. I don't know if any other countries were still ordering S10s, though, a bit later than that. But I know FM12s basically were the replacement for the S10. Avon still make the FM12, at least I still think they do. I think FM12s are still on the Avon product list, aren't they, if you go on their website? When you say NATO to GOST adapters, do you mean so you can put a NATO filter on a GOST mask? If you mean those, I've only ever bought one that was any good, like in terms of being really well 3D printed. Most of them are printed to a pretty low standard. Yeah, like I said, FM12s are basically what you want to get if you want to just get an S10, because it's basically the better version of the S10. Because basically it's just they changed a few features on the S10 for the FM12, so it was probably better for mass production, slightly better in terms of features. It's up to you, Lucas. I mean, good luck washing the smell off of an OZK suit. You're probably not going to manage that, or OKZ suit, whatever they're called. Because I keep mine outside in like a one of those outside storage sort of padlock things, just because of how much it smells. I can't bear to have it in the house. I think it still is on there, Brighto, but I think it's... Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, they still got it right on their site. Look, I have a feeling it's a weird thing, look, where like you can't find it properly, from the links on the site properly, but they still have all the information pages up on it, which they don't for some of the stuff. But yeah, they still have the FM12 product page up there. Yeah, S10s are brilliant for what they were, but Right, so if people want to know the order of the videos coming out in this week, I don't know if... I think I know which video I'm going to put on Wednesday. Right, well, I know which one I put on Wednesday because I've already uploaded it and scheduled it. So on Wednesday, there's a test of the Soviet DP3B vehicle dosimeter, testing it with X-rays, which is probably the only video, as far as I'm aware, on YouTube where a DP3B is tested properly. So you might find that interesting if you're interested in like T-55 and like Heinz sort of, Soviet-style vehicle-based Geiger counter systems or radiation detectors. Like, see that Polish DP68, isn't it? That one up there? It's like the Soviet version of that, but it's the one that's like a grey metal box kind of thing. It's a very good system. And it performed really well, actually, when I tested it today. So Wednesday's video is the DP3B. Friday, I'll probably do the video, like the full video I filmed on the PD500s, demonstrating, them on different meters, the fact they do actually give off X-rays. And then Sunday's video will probably be me absolutely nuking the Thermo Fisher, like, personal dosimeter thing, where I put about 5 sieverts on it, 5 millisieverts on it in about 10 seconds. Right, anybody, for obvious reasons, anybody asking stupid fucking questions like that guy is getting blocked. I'm going to report them as well if it lets me do them. I won't, just because that's illegal. I mean, technically, YouTube doesn't have a category for somebody saying they want to make chemical weapons, but I guess violent threats would be the one. But I just don't fuck about with idiots like that on here. But, because of all the shit you have to put up with, where if somebody comes on here and they're like, oh, I want to make a chemical weapon, no, you can fuck right off and don't ruin this hobby for everybody else. There's, if you're looking there, there's a PBF there, the one that gets brought out a lot in the videos. Yeah, those Swedish masks are very good. They're the Forshaders, aren't they? Or Forshaders, however it's pronounced. I think they're Skid Mask 90 in the Swedish military, but they're, called that for civilian use. They're very, very good masks. Now, if I'd been to Chernobyl, you'd have seen videos on it. I wanted to go last year, and, Corona happened. Yeah, thanks, Doug. Thanks for reminding everyone to like the stream. All right, what I'll just shout out now and shill myself is if you want to donate to the channel, you can do it via Super Chat. You can join the channel as a member. There's normally a button, I think, down there that says join or something. Or you can donate via Ko-fi. The link's in the description. There's different ways of doing it, just for anybody who did want to donate. Because, obviously, stuff like this costs money, just going to say. And obviously, some of my stuff YouTube won't monetize because, we can't be into this sort of hobby on YouTube. But there we go. That's that said. But yeah, so if you're not interested in radiation stuff, I'm afraid the next week's worth of videos are going to be pretty boring because they're all on radiation. It's going back up again now, ACM, because if you were, I don't know if you heard on the things I was saying over the last couple of weeks, but this has been the first month in a while where I've not had loads of outgoing bills. So I'm able to start, saving up again. So I've put a load of money back into it again. But I'm hoping in the next couple of months, I can probably put like half my earnings into it again. And then I think I'll have my car tax at some point due about June or July. And I'll probably have some other bills due. But yeah, there should be a couple of good months of saving now. But again, I've not seen any new ones listed for sale anyway. Is that another sort of tear gas, Brightel? Because I know there's several types of tear gas. I see you, Dominic. I could check the site, but it's normally like the first few days into each month they update those sites, isn't it, with like new listings. Yeah, there's nothing new on one of the main sites that often lists ROC posts. Not really, Lucas. Only way the M40 is better than the M50 is the fact that the M40 takes 40mm filters. The Avon C50 is better than the M40 in pretty much every way. As I said before, the M40 is a cool-looking mask. The thing I really don't like with the M40, as I've said a lot of times, is the fact that you need the second skin for it to be sort of an effective mask. Where lots of other masks of that generation were just made from a rubber that was more chemical resistant. Also, Brighto, it depends, doesn't it, when the tests were done? Because CS I don't think, was invented till like the 50s or the 60s. A lot of the C tear gas agents like CN and CS, I think they were 50s and 60s developed. So prior to that, yeah, it was different types of tear gas. I think they weren't as effective as tear gas, but they were more effective at accidentally killing people, weren't they? A lot of the old tear gases, which is why like CS is kind of like the gold standard of tear gas now, because unless you're putting it into a confined space where it's flammable, it's pretty safe. I'm all right, thank you, Tim. How are you? I'm not too bad. I'm a bit tired. I'm having to take a load of iron supplements now, but that slowly seems to be working. But the main problem, obviously, has been due to Corona and all that. I've not had my regular sort of hospital appointments where, they're meant to check you up for a lot of stuff, so you're sort of flying blind with a load of the health stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't actually know that particular one, Brighton, because I know, obviously... Oh, is that like one of the technical names for it? Because I normally know it as either sulfur mustard, and then you've got lewisite, which is the stronger one. Yeah, the problem is, Lakiza, we can't legally leave the country at the moment to go on holiday or do anything like that. And if I was booking something like that, I'd like it booked in the sense where you can book it as a package and then you're insured, where if it gets cancelled due to Corona or whatever, you get all your money back. I've done one on the M85, Lucas, not on the M74, because I don't have an M74. 1960s to 1990s, I think, OK9. It's basically a light anti-gas respirator redesigned by Canada. I think it would be the 60s it first came out, but you'd probably have to ask somebody really into C3s or somebody like Baroque for Days who's into light anti-gas respirators. No, never done any reenactment, Monty. I don't even know if there's any reenactment stuff near me. There probably is, but I've never seen it advertised anywhere for members. I do acting, but that's more like charity acting, to raise money for disabled kids kind of type, acting where everybody does it for a piss take. At one point, Tim, I don't know if they've still got them, Prepper's Shop actually had them in the UK. eBay often has a lot in from different, because lots of companies sell them on there. Sometimes Screwfix has ABEC filters, but I don't know if they're always in 40mm. They might be in like 3M style fittings. But generally, I'd just say eBay if the seller will guarantee a date on when the thing's from, because you do get like just industrial stores that sell through eBay. Which one's the GP21? I've got the Mag 9 or whatever it's called, which I think I've heard referred to as a GP1. I've got like one of the more modern versions of the PPM88, which I think I've heard called the GP21, but I don't actually know if that is a GP21. Depends what you're buying, Lucas. Etsy is generally better for, I'd say, rarer stuff sometimes, but I think it just depends on where the seller's based. Well, I've noticed in Eastern Europe you get more Etsy sellers like from, say, Ukraine and Russia than you do from say on eBay, but that might just be something to do with postage or eBay costs. I didn't even hear about this, Gash Goblin. I mean, the good thing is they have a vaccine now, don't they, for Ebola, that was like developed like too late after the last load of Ebola outbreaks in Africa, but in theory it can be used now. But I've never had customs problems with gas mask Dispinar. I've had customs problems with stuff that's really mundane and boring, like gloves before. I had some tactical gloves once, like not even good tactical gloves, just the cheap type that keep your hand warm and give your, fingers sun protection with a bit of padding in them. Like not even like weighted gloves for punching people with, and customs nicked them at one point. That's interesting, Brighto. You have to tell me about that at some point on a members stream when I can focus a bit more on it. Yes and no, Lakiza. The problem is with CS is that apparently it's often mixed with other things to like disperse it. And that's part of the problem. That apparently in a lot of places, if you just have a P3 filter, some of the shit that's mixed with the CS will compromise your mask. Right, I don't have a GP21 then, that answers the question. And yeah, don't ask me personal questions about jobs and stuff like that, because as I said, I get a lot of people that sadly come on here to try and get personal information about me and then blackmail me about it online. So if you're really interested in my personal details, just try and find them out online, because I refuse to pay people blackmail money to, hide my personal details. Of course, the people who post your personal details online are too fucking pussy to do anything, aren't they? No, you can't have pepper spray in the UK. You can have some types of spray, but they're not very useful. And the problem is a lot of cops won't know what you've got on you. So if you're carrying the legal stuff, they might stop you, basically confiscate it, test it, and destroy it, and find out it wasn't pepper spray, so it's a waste of time. I think it should be legal here, but the answer is it's not. But, as I've said, at the moment, I don't really want to buy many new masks unless they're particularly interesting ones to review, just because I want to clear space. Yeah, Tim, that was a pretty big thing. I guess you didn't hear last year, did you, when there was an attempted swatting thing on me, and the cop that came over was actually quite nice. But, my details get posted online a lot, because the problem is if you buy stuff from people, some of the people who sell masks online will basically just archive people's addresses to blackmail them. But you know, it's just goes to show how sad some online communities are, doesn't it? And that's why I say that's why I don't like using a lot of the Reddits, because there's people that always keep spamming my details for people. Oh yeah, because the thing is, so people can pretty easily lie on YouTube, can't they? And like say, I know this person's address, and they've got like a gun in their house or whatever. It's not glitching; it scrolls that so it doesn't burn into it. It's actually wrong time. I need to find a remote for it and put it an hour forwards. MP4s are like any sort of M17 mask. They're all right if you just wanted them for like particle protection. You're not going to get new filters for them anymore. If you wanted them for cosplay, they'd be fine for that. Right now, there isn't a reliable place to buy gas masks. Maybe Screwfix or hardware stores. You know, there'll be some eBay sellers, you know, that are absolutely fine. But like I said, the problem, like any of these places, you can get dodgy people on any sort of place like eBay, Etsy, whatever. Oh yeah, Monty, it is pointless and pathetic, but it doesn't stop people doing it, does it? But yeah, what actually happened is they were hoping I'd get shot or whatever, or beaten up, arrested. What actually happened is a cop turned up, said I didn't even have to let him in. You know, could I answer some questions? And I just answered his questions, and I've never had a police back since. I keep tax sort of inventory of them, Terra Lurch. But I don't have like a proper mask inventory because at one point when Windows 10 shit itself on my PC, I hadn't backed that up and I've never been bothered to redo it. So I mostly just keep tax records of like buying and selling stuff like you're meant to if you're making money from stuff online. But you know, I can't really be asked to do a proper inventory, especially for the lower value stuff. I don't know if USSR canteens have lead in them. Don't keep asking. But you know, it goes back to the thing though, doesn't it? Where a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't talk to police at all. But I don't think if you're doing literally nothing illegal, it's probably just more sensible if you have to deal with the police, just to be honest with them, have them realise their time's being wasted, and then they probably put a note on you saying, you know, don't investigate this person unless something serious happens. You know, like, so I know some people, oh, you should never talk to police no matter what, but that's probably more suspicious than anything if you're like one of those, am I being detained type people. Yeah, the plastic ones, like Brightle said, certainly don't. Like the GP7 canteens, the PMK1 canteens, you know, the bright orange type ones, they definitely wouldn't have lead in them because they're made of plastic. PMK1 is all right for £19, but I'm not a fan of the PMK1. So the problem is if people are saying, you know, do you like the PMK? The answer is still no. I mean, if you can get one for that price, you know, it's probably not a bad price. I just personally don't like the mask. I think the green stuff apparently did JJ that they used to use on GP5 filters, you know, like the green Soviet filters, but definitely not inside like plastic canteens. That's kind of my logic, Terra Lurch, because there's been times before as well where I've been out somewhere, something's happened, the police are looking into it, and you can spend a couple of minutes talking to a cop, they can realise you're nothing to do with it, and there's no more suspicion cast on you. But sometimes, yeah, you'll get the people that literally make themselves look as suspicious as possible because they're like, oh, I know I've got the right to technically not tell you anything. But yeah, then it looks like you're trying to hide something. And don't get me wrong, I definitely think people should have the right to privacy and everything. It's just if you're clearly not the person they're looking for, you might as well get yourself like cleared from that situation as fast as possible. Oh yeah, if you live in a dystopian country, yeah, you don't want the police looking into you at all. But I think the person, what they basically told the police is I was making a dirty bomb or something like that, because, you know, I've got radioactive stuff I test the Geiger counters with. I mostly do it with X-rays now because it's a bit more efficient. But yeah, you know, they basically did the thing of saying like, oh, he's making a dirty bomb. So when the cops came over, I started giving him an inventory list of all of my dosimeters, you know, like dose rate meters and all that. And I think the cop quickly realised I'm just a spurg, not somebody who's actually planning on doing anything evil. I can't show any Polish masks right now because I don't have any handy. I've got a video on my Polish masks. It's not up to date. I probably ought to do an up-to-date one where I include all of them, but I'll have to get around to doing that at some point. Yeah, I like the PMK4 actually. The PMK4 is good, but sadly I don't have a PMK4. I just borrowed one to do a video on it. Yeah, speaking of like the am I being detained people, there was one woman I saw on like some US police camera thing where she managed from being like so aggressively like, oh, I'm not going to talk to the police, from rather than having a warning, getting like a big fine and a ticket because she'd done something illegal and the cop was going to let her off as long as like she understood what she did was wrong and not to do it again. But because she was being like so much like, oh, I'm not talking to the police, I have all these rights, the cop ends up like, oh, I'm just going to do it officially then. But you know, like, I know that wouldn't always be the case, but yeah, like the thing is, if you'd been caught speeding or whatever and the cop was going to let you off of just a talking to, I would let the cop give me a talking to and not get points on my license. But some people are a bit weird like that. Yeah, I'll be on another 10 minutes. I might as well do a full hour. But does anybody have anything particularly interesting to talk about? I don't. You might have noticed that they've swapped around in the background. The reason is that the MD3 I've got, which is fully in its original condition, I've never broken the calibration seal on it. That particular MD3, I have what's the word for it? I've got that one now for testing of X-rays, so it doesn't get like electromagnetic interference with it because it's got the complete box around it, so it, you know, EMF doesn't fuck with it. Any idea what it is, Nandor? Because if you figured out what sort of brand of water bottle fits Goss mask, people could make their own Goss filters. It depends. Nachos and cheese, whatever you call gaming. Sometimes you can get stuff that gets dispatched really quickly and gets through all the customs and that fast. Other times you can get stuff that just gets stuck somewhere for ages. Yeah, the thing is, the keys are right. When I've been in foreign countries, because generally when you go to other countries, most cops can talk some English if you're really bad at the local language. The police can be really helpful if you ask them for directions. Like when I was in the Czech Republic, when I was in Prague, there was a cop that was like really friendly, you know, and you know, he gave us like tour directions of where you wanted to go in Prague for stuff, you know, because I suppose it helped as well that I wasn't an inebriated Englishman at the time, you know, that's just like one of those people that turns up to trash stuff when you're drunk in Prague. I was more like, oh, I'm actually interested in some of the cultural significance of Prague, thank you very much. As much as I do like drinking, but you know. But yeah, when I was in Prague, the cops are really friendly in terms of like pointing stuff out where you want to go for stuff. You know, I do know in some countries, though, you do want to be really careful with cops, that they are basically criminals. But, you know, my personal experience with cops is as long as you're polite enough to them, I've never had any issues with them. I do know people, you know, like who are older than me who've had like really corrupt cops, you know, beating the shit out of people for no reason, kind of thing. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Tim. You can get nice police, you can get bad police, can't you? I like to just basically do the thing of I'll treat somebody as a decent human being unless I know to do it otherwise, you know, kind of thing. That's the same thing I apply to people if they're gay, straight, you know, black, white, whatever. Treat people with respect. Hopefully they'll treat you with respect, you know, and then you won't run into any issues. The cheapest Chernobyl era Geiger counter, Lucas, you'll find in most places is the Soviet DP5 because they built loads of them, and you can often get them for about €100 with most of the accessories. DP5s were used in the Chernobyl disaster, and they're pretty cool counters. What was that in the UK, Cecil, or somewhere else? There wasn't really, Ryan, any topic for today. We were just talking about whatever. I've been letting the conversation drift wherever it drifts, but you know, I've just been talking about whatever. But you know, I said earlier I filmed 3 different videos today just because I was in the mood to get a load of videos done. Also, I did a load of shopping today. My dad actually bothered wearing the mask I gave him today, which was quite good, I thought, because normally my dad just wears like a little fucking you know, cloth mask over his face, but he used a proper P3 mask I gave him today, which is good. The Swiss M71, the helmet, probably not the helmet, Stug. I've got a Swiss gas mask if you wanted to buy that. I Can't remember the name of the Swiss gas mask. Is it the Swiss M69? Let me look up my video and I'll tell you what the gas mask is. I've got the Swiss one. Because I've got the Swiss Cold War gas mask. I can't remember the actual name of it without looking it up. I've got a Swiss SM67. I wouldn't mind selling that. That's quite a nice mask. No, I have the SM67. The SM74 is the same mask, but with the different valve layout. I've got the more retro one. They get confused a lot online, but basically, the one like I've got with the more like chunky valve setup is the older one. The one where they kind of integrated more stuff into a smaller area is the one you said, the SM74. Because I had to look that up, and I was like, all right, well, it makes sense, doesn't it, that the ones of the older dates are going to be the SM67s and the more modern ones. That's quite a cool mask. It's a bit like a German GM38, just built to a much better standard, I guess, because it's Swiss. What's the place, Ryan, that's in Russia where they dumped all the... It might be the one in Kazakhstan you're thinking of, where they dumped all the fucking radioactive shit in a lake. That might be the one you mentioned. But there was one, wasn't there, where they had that disaster of, like, the tanks overheated and, like, loads and loads of radioactive waste just got dumped in the lake and they didn't tell anyone? Well, regular S10s can't have double filters. If you mean the variants of the S10 that can have double filters, my opinion on double filters is they look cool for the most part. They'll get in your way, and they're a bit annoying. I just prefer having one good filter on one side of the mask. Definitely Trump, Richard, because Biden is taxing non-US citizens with US taxes, taxation without representation. And Biden, I don't think, is strong enough to stand up to China on human rights abuses and lots of things like that. And I miss Trump's tweets, you know. There were lots of things wrong with Trump, but I generally think Trump was better for standing up for America. And I'm not even American, but, you know, I have more respect for a president of whatever country that stands up for it than somebody who's just like a babbling old man who probably ought to be in a nursing home. Like, have you listened to anything Biden said recently? He just can't fucking stay on topic, can he? I actually feel sorry for him. You know, he just shouldn't be a president, you know. I really don't think so, Cecil. Like, the thing is, did you see the thing recently where he was in some, like, again, I don't like going into politics, but I will go into this because, again, like, the stuff that's going on to the Uyghurs in China is fucking horrible. But, like, the Chinese ambassador or something did, like, a 20-minute thing, didn't they? Just, like, talking how bad America is when it was meant to be China being brought to account on human rights issues. And, like, Biden's thing just completely, you know, like, oh, just let them say it. Oh, so is that one where they used a bomb then, Ryan, like you're saying, to basically excavate stuff, like nuclear excavation, Operation Plowshare type stuff, and then, yeah, figured out that ground bursting causes a lot of irradiation because, you know, neutrons hitting the soil and soil being sucked up into the blast. Old men playing at running the world. JJ, that's what it is. Well, it's the same thing here, Nandor. I think in pretty much every country, you'll basically get some cops, or even if you've done something wrong, they probably can't be asked to do the paperwork, so they'll just give you a talking to. You know, and then you also probably have the cops that don't take real crime seriously, so it's a double-edged thing, isn't it? But it's basically, does the cop act like a decent person? I really can't understand the people who have, like, an absolute hatred of cops for no reason. Especially like what we're seeing in Bristol at the moment in the UK. Like, what's the fucking point of, like, setting police vans on fire and smashing up police stations? What are you going to accomplish? Nothing. You're just wasting taxpayers' money and everything else. But I suppose that's a very good point, Cecil. I didn't really think about that. Yeah, if Biden is more supportive of Taiwan and stuff like that, even if it's behind the scenes, like the administration, that's a very good point. I wasn't thinking about that. You know, like, as a figurehead, Trump was definitely stronger on China. But yeah, if the Biden administration does more stuff behind the scenes, you're right, that would be good. Tim, the best thing I can suggest for you is buy the softest sort of pellets you can. So I've noticed actual BBs ricochet for obvious reasons a lot more than soft pellets. And if you buy hollow point air pellets, even if you're shooting with a low power air gun, because they flatten out a bit, they tend to not ricochet. So the best thing I'd say to avoid ricocheting pellets is basically shoot them into a slightly soft target and used soft lead pellets, if that makes sense. So if you're shooting them into like a paper target or like a thick paper target, like a catalogue, you're not going to get a ricochet because they're going to basically go in and start deforming rather than, hit a hard surface and then ricochet. But I've noticed my Daisy Red Rider ricochets a lot more despite its lower velocity than my like 12 foot-pound air rifles, because the air rifles, if they're shooting proper lead pellets, tend to flatten when they hit something like a bullet, as opposed to, just bouncing back because they're a sphere. If they were in the riots the previous weekend, Terror Lurch, they probably deserve to be arrested, but yeah. Okay, right, that's interesting. I know there was an interesting one where the Soviets put out a massive oil fire using a nuke, which is actually a good way of doing it. But yeah, let me just look up 1950 Soviet nuclear accident. What's the name of it? Kishtim, that's it. Kishtim, something like that. This is the one I was thinking of. The one where they had loads and loads of nuclear waste stored in tanks, and the decay heat basically caused the tanks to rupture and flood an area. And then they pretended it didn't happen. I think in terms of contamination, that might be worse than Chernobyl, but Chernobyl obviously was a lot more serious in terms of the scale of it. I will say, Nando, when I went to Hungary, I thought it was a really nice place, but obviously I wasn't a citizen living there. I was just a tourist. But I know like lots of countries have that problem. We have corruption in the UK. It's funny because I used to work with a guy from Africa, and he came to the UK from, I think it was Kenya. And he was kind of amazed after he'd been here for a while, realizing that like UK politics is just as bad as like, corruption in Africa. It's just the politicians hide it a bit better. But yeah, like our politicians are just as corrupt, it's just they hide it more here. But anyway, I've linked the thing to the people who want to read about Kishtim or whatever it was called. So 66 cases of chronic radiation syndrome, 200 additional cases of cancer, 10,000 people evacuated. It was INS level 6, which is the one under 7, isn't it? Which is the most serious one. Like Chernobyl is the only level 7, if I remember. But yeah, it's basically where they filled loads and loads of tanks up with nuclear waste and didn't cool them. And because stuff like strontium-90 heats up and cesium heats up if it's in big enough quantities, it just, ruptured the tanks from boiling over, essentially, and flooded a lake full of nuclear waste. Sadly, I've never been to Latvia. I really ought to go to a load of the Baltic countries at some point, because I've been to Finland, but I've not been to Latvia, Lithuania, or Estonia. But I have been to like the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. I haven't been to Romania, but I ought to go to Romania at some point. But obviously with Corona, that's not going to happen. Tim, most of the time I stream about 8 p.m. most evenings, UK time. That's when it's easiest for me to stream most evenings, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. But I generally alternate between members' streams and non-members' streams. That way people who pay for membership can get streams where there's less people talking, so we can talk about stuff more in depth they're interested in. Yeah, I imagine they're definitely worse, but like I was saying, the problem is there is still corruption in the UK. Like, I find it funny when people think like corruption doesn't go on in America or the UK. Yes, it does. Just because we're meant to be like the gold standards of like what world power should be doesn't mean that our politicians don't break all the rules as well. I don't know about Ukraine. I've not seen anything on about it in the news, but obviously at the moment it's mostly all just been Myanmar and Corona stuff, hasn't it? It certainly wouldn't when it comes to them doing nuclear stuff, Connor. But then again, I suppose the US had 3 Mile Island and lots of other shit. Britain had Windscale. So I think most nuclear states are pretty complicit in poisoning regular people. You don't have to apply for membership, Ryan. It's just something you pay for. Underneath the thing, there should be a button that says join now or something like that. You click that, and then basically what it does is it charges you, I think it's $2 or £2 a month. And then you get access to all the members' content. I think I've only ever done one members' video that was a requested one. But for the most part, it's just like every other day I do a members-only stream, which just means that you can get on a much more chill conversation where you don't get people spamming the chat. An airsoft gun, I don't know. With air rifles, they can kill people at like the 700 feet per second with a lead pellet type thing. An airsoft gun, if it's shooting plastic, would need to go a hell of a lot faster than that. But, you know, the point is, in the UK, for example, if it goes over a certain power, it's not classed as an airsoft gun anymore. It'd be just classed as an air rifle, you know, an air gun. So, for example, in the UK, a Daisy Red Ryder is not an airsoft gun. It's an air gun or a BB gun. They're kind of different things. But the UK legal limit for ones where you don't need a firearm certificate can still kill people, because sadly people every year manage to kill themselves or kill each other with air guns, you know, because they don't treat them like a firearm. So they shoot somebody as a joke with them and that person dies, because obviously if you're shooting somebody and not wearing very thick clothing with a 22 or a 177 air gun and it hits them, you know, like in the eye or in the throat or in the heart, you know, a pellet does potentially, even if it's only going 700 feet per second, does potentially have the power to penetrate and hit a vital organ. You know, it's the same reason that lots of Americans, you know, die from 22 long rifle, because for some reason you get the people who treat guns that are less powerful like they're not guns, which is a stupid thing to do. Because, you know, if you're firing something that's going at high velocity, whether it's an arrow, a pellet, you know, a bullet, you know, you should only be aiming at something you're willing to destroy. Yeah, I definitely want to visit Canada M1C Austin. It's just the problem has been like all the corona shit, you know, like, because I used to do a thing where I go on holiday with my dad every year just so we could both go and see places, you know, like generally historical places. And I definitely want to do America as well. Like America and Canada are definitely high up on the list. It's just, you know, sadly one of those things where, you know, because of corona, I think it's going to be a couple of years before travel gets back to normal. I don't know. It depends on the laws in your country, Max. Like, in theory, if you're shooting aluminum or aluminium, they'd be traveling at a lower velocity than if they were plastic, so that might get around that rule, but it's generally done on muzzle energy of the gun, I think. I think, Lucas, you can technically get some airsoft snipers, can't you, that shoot faster than 500 feet per second muzzle velocity. I assume you're meaning 0.2 gram plastic BBs for that, because that's generally the one most people use to measure them. But yeah, I mean, it also depends on the airsoft site, because some sites will have like restrictions on what you're allowed to use on the site. But I think some airsoft, like actual sniper rifle type ones, shoot BBs faster than that, but they might not be allowed for like human to human thing. But you know, it depends on the country's laws, your skirmish sites laws, you know, rules. Sadly, so I don't think there are many. My local army surplus store that used to be really good is closed now, which is a shame. I think they still run an eBay store, but they don't have a physical brick and mortar store anymore because of like how much rent was, which is a real shame, because it was really good to go in there to look at uniforms, because you could, if you're buying camo, you could find something in your size that was like the least faded, you know, grade A piece of kit in there. Whereas if you're looking online, you have no idea how faded or, you know, like tatty it's going to be when you order like an old bit of surplus. Yeah, Lucas, 22 long rifle is about 2 to 3 times the muzzle velocity, I think, of a UK legal air gun, you know, that's not on the restricted side. I think a lot of them are about 40 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, aren't they? Whereas like air guns are like 10 to 12 foot-pounds that are UK legal here. But the point is, you wouldn't want to be shot by anything like that, would you? Because if it's a projectile that's designed to kill small game and it hits a person, it's not going to do them any good. But anyway, I'll head off now. It's been quite a good stream tonight, actually. There's only been a couple of silly people on tonight. But yeah, tomorrow will be a members stream. It will probably be 8 p.m. UK time, I imagine. And bear in mind the clocks are changed, because I haven't changed that one yet, because I need to find a remote for it again. So it's actually, you know, 8:04 at the moment, not 7:04 p.m. But yeah, for anybody who's a member, I'll probably be on about 8 p.m. as usual tomorrow. Yeah, anyway, have a good evening, everybody, and hopefully you're all into radiation videos, because there's a lot of those coming out next week. If you're not, you'll have to wait a while, I'm afraid, before there's some more gas mask videos. But have a good evening, everybody. Anyway, bye.